Tonight I'm catching one of the world's most unique sleeper trains. This is China's next level capsule hotel high-speed sleeper train, featuring over 850 individual sleeping pods. And over the next 12 hours, I'll be putting it to the test as we travel over 2,000 kilometers overnight from Beijing all the way south to Shenzhen. So, what is it actually like to sleep on a revolutionary sleeper train like this? Let's go find out. Hello, here from Beijing Xi Station, the western railway station serving the Chinese capital city. The beautiful station with its distinctive station building opened in 1996, and at the time it was the largest railway station in Asia by area. However, this was later surpassed by Shanghai's massive Hongqiao station that is a truly massive complex that's even connected to one of the city's two main airports. It's a very cold and wet November day here in Beijing, so let's sit inside the station and see if we can find some shelter for the rain. As you might have expected for such a large station, it was a little tough navigating with many different access roads and paths. Eventually, I did find the station entrance, and as with all other major railway stations in China, access is tightly controlled, with first an airport-style security check, followed by an ID and ticket check. All long-distance train tickets in China are linked to your ID, so if you haven't pre-purchased a ticket online, you'll need to find the special station entrance for the ticket office. But be aware, tickets in China often sell out days if not weeks in advance, so I highly recommend buying ahead online. Oh wow, this station is really busy tonight. Just like many other high-speed railway stations in China, Beijing Xi is centered around one long corridor spanning across the station's 20 tracks. Along this corridor, you'll find a variation of food and retail outlets. Even McDonald's and KFC have now made its way into most major Chinese train stations. High-speed rail stations in China work a lot like an airport, with all trains boarding from a specific gate area where passengers are made to wait. Our train tonight is D901, bound for Shenzhen Bay from gates 10 and 11. It's the first of 4 overnight high-speed trains that will depart for Shenzhen and beyond tonight. The departure gate experience at Chinese railway stations is just as chaotic as at an airport, with everyone sat in this rather basic room with a couple of basic amenities waiting for the train to start boarding. They also really love doing announcements here, and after like half an hour just sitting around listening to them, it was starting to get a little annoying. Around 20 minutes before departure, boarding started, with all passengers having to scan their ID documents. As a foreigner, I would recommend using the manual lane, as my passport only seemed to work with some of the automatic gates. Alright, as much as I've disliked the station experience, I'm really excited to finally be boarding this train. Ever since I read about it while researching for the trip, I thought it could be one of the coolest trains in the world, so I'm very much looking forward to getting on board and trying it out. I mean, just look at it, it looks so cool. This is the CRH2E high-speed train, built by CRRC Qingdao Xifang and capable of 250 km per hour. But what makes this train special is the interior. In 2017, just 3 of these trains were built with this unique pod-style sleeping layout, requiring a completely new body shell to accommodate this. However, under the hood, the train is still just a regular CRH2 high-speed train like the one parked next to us. Right, let's finally head on board and find our pod for the next 12 hours. And wow, does this not look like something straight out of a science fiction movie? Almost the entire train is laid out with these pods, with beds alternating placement between the aisle and window side. And here's my upper bunk for the night. The pods themselves are largely identical, with the lower ones offering slightly more headroom and a larger window, but they do also cost slightly more. I'll tell you just how much I paid for this trip towards the end of the video, but for now it's time to climb into the pod and get ready for departure. Waiting at every bunk is a fresh set of clean bedding, which seems to actually be of really good quality. Nightjet, please take note, your pillows are pathetic in comparison. I already thought the Nightjet pods were cool, but on a 16 carriage high-speed train, well, that's a whole different level. After the departure of this overnight high-speed train bound for Shijiazhuang, we are ready for our departure. We depart Beijing bang on time at 1943, beginning this mammoth over 2,200 km long journey to the south of China. As there's not much to see out of the window at this hour, let's instead turn our attention to the interior of the train, after the route map for today's journey. We are on board train D901, which will make a handful of stops on its 2,225 km long route that's scheduled to take just 12 hours and 33 minutes to reach Shenzhen Beijing Station, giving the train an average speed of an impressive 177 km per hour. Right, we are now speeding out of Beijing, so let's take a closer look at the pods for the night. So of course this is not the most spacious place to sleep in the world, but it is actually quite nice. So first of all, you got this adjustable back support, making sitting upright more comfortable, and it also moves further back to give you more headspace when sleeping. Then you have two fairly large shelves, one of which I use to store my bag, and the other one is handy for charging your phone as it's close to the power socket. This is also where you'll find the button for the main light in the cabin. In terms of suitcases, I saw most people store them on this floor space, with other passengers carrying very large bags placing them in the corridor. A small reading light is also present by the back support, as well as a very badly placed coat hook. If you were to use this, your coat would be hanging in your face all night. That doesn't seem very smart. Overall, this feels a bit more spacious than a Nightjet pod, but without some of the smart features like the lockable doors and a tray table. We'll take a closer look at the rest of the train's interior a bit later in the video, but now we are making our first station stop. This is Zhuozhou, serving a fairly small city, at least by Chinese standards, of around 600,000 people. Our train has a 14-minute stop here, as two faster high-speed services need to overtake. China's high-speed railway network operates across several different tiers. The fastest trains, like the one passing us now, can run at speeds of up to 350 km per hour and are often found between the major population centers. Much more common across the entire country is trains like ours operating at around 250 km per hour. And then on the lower end, the slowest kind of Chinese high-speed trains generally operate at around 200 km per hour. And with all the overtaking complete, we now head back into the darkness for another hour or so of non-stop high-speed running. After our stop, the train staff came around with a pretty big amenity bag, which I was not expecting. Inside the bag was a cold bottle of green tea, as well as so many snacks. You even get a few handy amenities like a comb and toothbrush, as well as a few towels. And you definitely won't go hungry on board this train. If those snacks aren't enough to keep you going, there's also a small bistro on board. In fact, out of the 16 carriages on this high-speed sleeper train, it's the only one that isn't packed with beds. So, let's go and take a wander through the train. The bistro is located roughly in the middle of the train. On offer is a selection of light meals, snacks, as well as hot and cold beverages. Pretty good for any late night cravings. On the way back, I stopped by the washroom area, which is also where you'll find the train's public water dispenser, something that's pretty common on trains in this part of the world. Next to this, you'll find this small area with a sink and a mirror, handy for brushing your teeth and freshening up before bed or in the morning. Over here is where you'll find some of the train's toilets. Overall, this toilet was looking pretty clean and was equipped with a Western style toilet. I actually thought this was the flush button, but turns out that was actually for the toilet seat, and this is actually the flush button. But overall, the toilet was clean, well stocked and functional, so it gets a thumbs up. After that little wander, I decided it was time to get cozy under the blanket. The feet space is definitely a little narrow, and this was also the moment I realized that this shelf is actually where the person sleeping behind you has their feet. Next up, we slow down to make our second stop of the night. We arrive here next to a more traditional Chinese high-speed sleeper train, featuring the more common layout of having 4-person rooms with 2 bunk beds on each side. After completing our brief stop here, we are on the move again, heading back into the night next to this classic Chinese local-haul sleeper train operating on the legacy network. You can actually still take sleeper trains like this between major cities like Beijing and Shenzhen, but instead of making the trip in just 12 hours, it takes closer to 2 days. And with the clock now approaching 10 PM, I decided it was time to call it a night. Good night! Good morning! It's just around 6 AM and we are just about to leave the high-speed line to serve Guangzhou-Shenzhen. However, as the line ahead of us actually isn't ready to accommodate our arrival yet, we have to make an unscheduled stop here at Guangzhou-Shenzhen Station. A few moments later, we are on the move again, now heading for the more centrally located Guangzhou Station, where our train pulls in at 06:37, running just a couple of minutes behind schedule. Not long after, we quickly get moving again, just as the sun begins to rise over this mega city, home to around 18 million people. We are now traveling along the Guangzhou railway line, and yes, you guessed it, that's the name for the railway line between Guangzhou and Shenzhen. The line played an important role in developing China's high-speed railway network, being one of the first lines to be upgraded for speeds up to around 200 km per hour. This was in part achieved by buying one single Swedish X2000 high-speed train, which operated services between the two cities from 1998 until 2007. Even today, there's still a bit of Swedish influence left, as the Chinese version of the Bombardier Regina train, also found in Sweden, is frequently used on services in this area. So, how did I sleep? Honestly, pretty well. While the train can be a little noisy at 250 km per hour, the ride itself is really smooth and the actual bed itself is surprisingly comfy, especially in combination with the really good duvet and pillow. Overall, I had no trouble sleeping really. Honestly, the scale of China's high-speed railway network continues to amaze me. I've just traveled 2,200 kilometers overnight, pretty much entirely on dedicated high-speed railway lines only. That's basically the equivalent of traveling overnight from Copenhagen to Rome in 12 hours. Just for comparison, Nightjet takes 14 hours just to go from Munich to Rome. We are now on the final stretch of our journey, making our way around the densely populated cities surrounding the Pearl River Delta. I should mention there's no Wi-Fi on board the train, not that you would really want to use it as a Westerner anyway, but I had no trouble getting a mobile signal as coverage across China is generally excellent. Our train is now leaving the Guangzhou Railway, climbing up onto this impressive series of viaducts as we join the newer high-speed line towards Shenzhen Bay and Hong Kong. We are now making our penultimate stop at Dongguan Nan Station. And from here, we are only a 20-minute ride away from our final destination of Shenzhen Bay, so let me start summarizing the trip. I paid 860 Chinese yuan for my upper bunk, which is a fixed price for this journey and does not change based on demand. I thought this was really reasonable considering I got to lie flat on a high-speed train for 12 hours. Overall, I quite enjoyed that. It's not as good as a private sleeper, but I would much rather take this as a solo traveler than the shared 4-6 person couchettes we have in Europe. And I think that's the main takeaway. I really like pods on sleeper trains, because they give you the sense of privacy of a sleeper while taking up far less space, which keeps fares low for solo travelers. And at least in this case, even though the train is pods only, if you prefer a more traditional room, there's still 3 other overnight services on this route that offer shared compartments. The only real downside for me is that the pods are closed off with thin curtains, which is not great for noise. Something a bit more substantial, like what you find on the Nightjet, would definitely be better. Probably also for sense of security, although this was not a concern I had in China. So, what did you think of this futuristic sleeper train? Would you like to try something like this, or would you prefer a more traditional room? Let me know in the comments below. Our train pulls into Shenzhen Bay or Shenzhen North Station a few minutes ahead of schedule at 0801, after what I thought was a comfortable journey on what is certainly one of the most unique trains in the world. Thank you so much for joining me in this video today. If you liked it, make sure to subscribe to the channel as I try to post a new one every Sunday. You can also become a member of the channel to give it a little extra support. For just a couple of euros every month you get early access to all my videos as well as exclusive travel updates. And to continue your journey, why not watch my video on China's Swedish high-speed train? Thanks for watching.